Coming up on Bridgewater this week.
Bless the Lord, oh my soul. Oh, my soul.
The town holds a vigil to remember victims of the opioid crisis. The community rallies around 2 missing pups despite months of searching.
And I'm not giving up because there's no reason to give up.
The families hope for answers and how you can help. Plus,
Bridgewater
Bridgewater Rainham are your national champions. These stories and more ahead. Bridgewater This Week starts right now.
Thank you for watching our February 16th edition of Bridgewater This Week. I'm Scott Olson.
And I'm John Luck. A Maine resident is pleading not guilty after being arrested for stabbing another man in Bridgewater. Adam Martinez allegedly stabbed Jeremy Phaneuf at Southbridge Commons on February 11th. Police say the stabbing was a result of a fight over a woman both men previously dated. Martinez was held without bail pending a dangerousness hearing, which was scheduled for February 15th.
A Duxbury couple has donated 25 acres of land and buildings on Plymouth's Industrial Park Road to the Bridgewater State University Foundation. The gift, valued at $8 million, is the largest donation ever made to a state university in the Commonwealth. It was given by Bruce and Patricia Bartlett, both BSU alums and the owners of Bartlett Nuclear. The couple has given more than $13 million to the university over the past 7 years. Discussions are underway on the future of the property.
At their meeting on February 6th, the council heard from the only interested candidate to fill the void on the council left by Dr. Kevin Perry. Fred Chase took this opportunity during Citizens Open Forum to introduce himself to the town.
I'm a town resident of 30 years. I've resided in the district for 14 years. My children have attended town schools and graduated. They are now college graduates, work in the working world, living on their own. Again, I work in the city of Boston, so I'm away from Bridgewater for 12 hours a day. And I think some of you can relate to that experience. But nonetheless, I have decided after consideration that it would be appropriate for me to seek the seat.
Now, if he is voted on the council, Mr. Chase would be on the ballot for a 1-year term to complete the 3-year term Dr. Perry left behind. There's still time to take out nomination papers. You have until March 8th to take out papers from the town clerk's office. The final day to turn in your nomination papers is March 26th at 5 p.m., and the last day to pull your papers is March 28th at 5 p.m. The annual election will take place on April 28th at Bridgewater Middle School, formerly known as the BR High School.
Town employees are asking the public to be vigilant after reports of scammers claiming to be from municipal offices are calling. These calls show up as Town of Bridgewater on caller ID and do not leave a message on answering machines. Do not answer one of these calls. Employees will always leave a message describing the reason for their call and provide a direct callback number. The town will never ask for social security numbers, passwords, or other personally identifiable information over the phone. Do not give out this information over the phone. Please also report any suspicious activity to the Bridgewater Police Department.
According to a CDC study, over 1,000 people a day are treated for misusing prescription opioids. In 2016, 2,069 Massachusetts residents died due to opioids. And although it continues to unfortunately take lives, the effort continues to stop this epidemic that has taken many lives while affecting even more.
So we pour out our praise to you only.
As an addict that became desperate, that didn't have much hope.
I went to pick him up and he said we had to go somewhere. So I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? It was a drug deal that we had to go on. He told me, never tell anyone about this and pretend you didn't see anything.
She went for a walk and she never came home. She stopped at a bar and that tornado sucked her in. And once again, she surrendered to a trigger.
Although they are different people, they all share the pain of substance use disorder. At a candlelight vigil held at Trinity Episcopal Church on January 28th, residents from around the area came out to remember those that were lost to the epidemic while hearing how it can affect more than just one life.
You know, when I was locked up, my mom was dying of cancer, and I know I hurt her. I know I hurt her really bad. She just wanted to see me one more time.
She told me she got permission from Billy to tell me where he was. This whole time he didn't want to upset me, which of course not knowing did the exact opposite. She told me he had gone to detox and completed and he moved to a halfway house. I was on my way to work and I didn't know what to do. I was in shock.
This was a collaborative effort between Trinity and the Addiction Policy Forum's Massachusetts delegation.
So the Addiction Policy Forum is a group based in Washington, D.C., and our main purpose is to help fundraise and educate and lobby for changes with addiction. We are now going out to the state levels to do outreach in communities, to do education, to teach people about addiction, to educate people, and essentially what our motto is that we envision a world where there are fewer deaths from addiction.
According to the National Institute of Drug Abuse, every day well over 100 people die from opioid overdoses, with a large number being males aged 17 to 22. These are numbers that the Addiction Policy Forum is looking to shrink.
So it's our future that's being lost. It's the boys next door. I actually lost my son in April of 2016. He was a 20-year-old college student, honors student on a full academic scholarship. Really the boy next door. So the purpose of that campaign was to help educate and show what addiction really is now. It's our mothers, it's our fathers, it's our aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, friends.
Reverend Deacon Ron Tibbetts from Rentham was in attendance during the vigil. Tibbetts spearheaded the hashtag 2069 campaign that featured signs posted in yards around the area. That number represents the number of overdoses in Massachusetts in 2016. The Reverend Deacon thanked people for sharing their stories and showing courage during the night.
Thank you for your powerful and personal and important witness tonight. Thank you for the courage to step out of the isolation that is so much a part of this disease called substance use disorder, and to stand before both friend and stranger and to share your journeys.
Although overdose numbers continue to rise, those that are most affected personally by this epidemic may feel isolated. The Addiction Policy Forum hopes that settings like this vigil may help people feel less isolated and help with the healing process.
We need to bring more awareness. We need to educate people really on what we're dealing with. I feel that people don't, or not that they don't get involved, they don't know how to get involved because they don't know the resources at hand. So it's a topic that they don't want to discuss because they don't feel like they have an answer. And there are answers. We just need to work together to find them and put all of our resources together in order to do that.
The church continues its effort to help stop addiction, including holding special services on the last Wednesday of every month, and starting later this month, a children's grief support session. For more information on the Addiction Policy Forum, you can visit addictionpolicy.org.
The efforts of Bridgewater's Soup Man is expanding across the region. Peter Keller began serving homemade soup to the homeless in memory of his son Travis, who was homeless and died of a drug overdose in 2016. After reaching out to the community for gloves, Peter's efforts began spreading across the country and the donations began pouring in. There are now drop boxes at fire stations in Bridgewater, Easton, and Taunton, a partnership with Ocean State Job Lot, and a nonprofit in the works. You can find out more at supportthesoupman.org, including ways to donate.
And go up they did. BR's varsity cheerleaders took home a national title this year, finishing as the Advanced Medium High School National Champions. Quite the title for that. And for the BR cheerleaders, this competition season was a revenge tour of sorts after coming in third place last year. The squad received a hero's welcome home, escorted by both police and fire. And school principal Angela Watson tweeted out, "So beyond proud, you fought hard, worked together, battled adversity, and now you are sitting on top of the world. Well done, ladies." And BR competed against a host of teams, including squads from Massachusetts, Oklahoma, Connecticut, and Nevada. Now, to get to the national championships, they needed to win the state championship, which they did, winning the title by 1.2 points. So congratulations go out to the BR varsity cheerleaders, and there you see the tweet from the principal of the high school, Angela Watson. So once again, close scores, but still, they come out on top.
Well, congratulations to them. Certainly quite the achievement that we'll remember for a very long time. We're very proud of them.
When we return, the impact these two Eaton Terriers have made on Bridgewater.
I'm amazed at how the community's role in this has helped. They have gone over and beyond.
And the family's heartfelt thank you to the community.
And making space for rain, Corey Baker has the highlights from a sold-out infrastructure meeting.
Here's your check. Oh, you got it. You know, since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Okay. Got it.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early.
You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Got no strings to hold me down, to make me fret, to make me frown. I had strings, but now I'm free. There are no strings on me.
If only it were true. Muscular dystrophy has tied this boy to a wheelchair. Dystrophy turns healthy muscle into useless fat. Help science free children everywhere from the bonds of muscle disease. Please give.
Now I'm free. There are no strings on me.
Looks like BR students have a bright future in the business world. Last month, 7 students from DECA, the school's business club, advanced to a state-level competition to be held in March. DECA prepares emerging leaders and entrepreneurs in marketing, finance, hospitality, and management.
The BMS debate team recently traveled to Swansea for their first interscholastic meet. 5 students competed and each team won in the first round. The top-scoring team from each school moved on to round 2, which include 8th graders Jake Benkis and Darrence Bernard. In the final round, BMS faced off against RMS, resulting in a close score, a .5 win by RMS. In other news, 8th grader Ryan Stankiewicz came in first in the National Geographic Geography Bee held at Bridgewater Middle School.
We'd also like to take congratulations to January Students of the Month at BMS. Angela DePlacido, Jacob Golden, Ben Peterson, and Liam Wasser were recognized for their academic achievements and positive school citizenship.
And remember, we'd love to hear what's going on at your school or with your student. You can reach the studio at the contact information listed on your screen. The BR School Committee has begun the process of making the FY19 budget, and at their January meeting, they heard from parents and students about 2 major issues. One, more funding for the music program. The second issue was the end of the pay-to-ride program that will begin at the start of the 2019-2020 school year.
The joy that I see on some freshmen' faces when administrators come into the class to listen to the chorus because they love to hear us sing is something worth fighting for. To keep the music department running and to see the joy in everybody's faces, we're going to need help. We have the willing participants and parents who are willing to spend a decent chunk of their time in helping us fundraise to make sure we can do everything we normally do in the year. This fundraising is enough to make sure we can get through the year. It cannot help pay our directors and staff for the many extra hours that they spend with us to make sure we don't sound good and keep improving, but we are the ensembles that can go to competitions. The music department is more than a department, it's our family. I spend so much time in the music rooms at the high school, I would consider it a home. A place where we can escape the little bit of pressures of everyday life and find people with similar interests.
Many working parents struggle with the guilt of literally dropping their children off for hours at a center while they go to work to provide for their families. But at least I currently feel that I have some options with pay-to-ride busing service. With no pay-to-ride option, our family will have no options. Literally, no options. As a teacher, I understand how budgets affect everything within a school system. I understand why pay-to-ride is something you are trying to eliminate because it creates a deficit in the budget. What I would like you to think about is how eliminating this option will affect not just the school budget in a positive way, but how it will in turn negatively impact the day-to-day lives of some of the families it affects and the students you are working so hard to educate.
Students who live less than 1.5 miles away from their schools will not be able to take the bus from their house. However, the superintendent did say that the district was talking to a third party that would be able to pick those students up. The pay-to-ride situation was part of the discussion for what may shape up to be a tough budget year.
But at the end of the day, it's our job to make sure that we're watching the cash register. And we make sure that we're not going back to 2009, 2010, which many people may not have lived through as parents, but I can tell you I did as a building administrator. And I had 30 to 35 in a class. I had math teachers teaching science and science teachers teaching English. I didn't have an assistant principal. We went through 64 layoffs that year because over time, programs that were unsustainable continued to be in that budget.
When it comes to making those tough decisions, we have to focus on what happens in the classroom and what happens in the schools to provide the best education that we can possibly do with the dollars that are provided.
Mr. Swenson released his preliminary budget for the school year, which included class sizes depending on a budget getting passed or not passed. Grades 2, 6, and 7 feature the biggest impact of a plus-minus of about 2 to 3 students. Among the staffing requests, the superintendent is looking to add a full-time band instructor and 2 school adjustment counselors. Overall, the projected budget for FY19 is about a $7.3 million jump, or about 10.7% from FY18. A $3 million hike is projected in instructional services, which includes 750 Chromebooks for the district. The committee will hold a special school committee meeting on March 7th at the high school to hear public input, and the Bridgewater Town Council is projected to vote on the budget on May 8th.
It's just not the same. I miss them every day. I look out the window. I look out the door thinking that they're there, and they're not.
Their story has been shared thousands of times by people all across the country. The owners of these 2 missing Wheaton Terriers aren't giving up hope that their dogs will find their way home. Alicia Fortin has the story.
Marcy, Maury.
They were named after my favorite aunt and uncle, and they even acted like them. They protected each other.
And the Woodward family is hoping that Marcy and Maury are protecting one another right now. The soft-coated Wheaton Terriers went missing on December 9th.
It was snowing and raining. It was actually our very first snow.
I let them out of the house, and because I was cleaning off the car and was going to take them for a car ride, and they took off. And I don't know if it was a scent. I don't know if it was, but normally when you say you want to go for a ride in a car, that's all it takes. They come right back.
The dogs, ages 8 and 10, were later spotted in the area of Summer and Flag Streets.
And they spotted them around 1 or 2 in the morning the night that they were missing. So that's why we started there with the dog tracker, and the dog tracker tracked from there where they went.
Since then, nothing. Both dogs do have activated microchips and were immediately reported missing.
At the time that I had the microchip, they didn't have the trackers then. So hopefully all the vets, this is to all the vets, I hope that you check new dogs that come in.
Good morning. Good morning.
It's a unique story too with them both missing. And I really truly believe that they're still together. They wouldn't leave each other. You know, if one's hurt, they're standing by each other. That's how their whole life has been.
Yeah, they're like an old married couple.
Life without their beloved companions is difficult, to say the least.
It's not the same. It's just not the same. I miss them every day. I look out the window. I look out the door thinking that they're there, and they're not.
For the family, the worst part is not knowing. The magnitude of this loss being felt by everyone, including Marcy and Maury's daughter, Molly.
She misses her parents. She wants her parents to come home. When they first went missing, Molly would be shaken, and it's like you could just tell she knew something was wrong.
Despite their heartbreak, the Woodwards are not giving up hope. Hope that Marcy and Maury will find their way home.
And I'm not giving up because there's no reason to give up.
If there is a silver lining to this story, it's the outpouring of support from the community. Janice and her 2 daughters, Nicole and Amika, used social media to spread the word. The response has been overwhelming.
They have gone over and beyond.
Flyers and updates were shared hundreds of times, drones searched from above, security cameras are being watched regularly. The flyer even made it onto the digital sign outside of Prisco's Market in Delhi and has been carried around by school bus drivers and corrections officers.
People have really been out of this world.
And there are so many more to thank, like Lisa McKay, other area animal control officers, and Mike McDermott, a firefighter who offered to go out and search on his ATV.
And try to help look for the dogs, especially where we couldn't get to.
We can't thank you enough from the bottom of our hearts to, you've kind of filled a void to have them, you know, to help us find them and bring them home. If I had to speculate, I would think that one of them was hurt, and the other one is staying by and won't leave the other one's side, or that someone has them and maybe they just don't know.
The family would like to ask the public to continue to keep an eye out for Marcy and Maury, to check their sheds or anywhere a dog might seek shelter.
There will be no questions asked. If my dogs are still out there, to please return them. You can leave them on my deck, or you can call any one of us. I am offering a $5,000 reward for the safe return of both dogs.
It's time for them to come home.
You can stay updated on the Facebook page, Bring Home Marcy and Maury. Anyone with any information about the dogs or their collars are asked to call 508-942-6977.
If anybody does find their collars, a bright orange and a bright green collar with our phone numbers on them, please call me, because I need closure and I need to know. If anybody sees them, please tell them to go home, because I really miss my Maury and Marcy.
February 7th through the 14th is Congenital Heart Defect Awareness Week, and according to the CDC, about 54,000 babies are born each year in the United States with a heart defect. We're going to introduce you now to a baby boy with the heart of a lion who is celebrating his first birthday thanks to a unique twist on traditional open heart surgery.
Happy birthday to you.
1-year-old Jeremiah Powers has a lot to celebrate. A year ago, he was struggling to breathe and waiting to grow large enough for open heart surgery.
It was tough to swallow, that information that, my son would need open heart surgery in order to live.
Congenital heart problems are the most common type of birth defect, but Jeremiah's was more complex than most.
Normally the heart forms with 4 chambers. In between those chambers there are 2 valves. These 2 valves weren't separated. There was one large valve, and there was a hole between these lower 2 chambers right here, and also the upper chambers.
Jeremiah's blood was flowing backwards at times, putting strain on his heart and filling his lungs with fluid.
He did struggle to breathe. He had respiratory issues. He would retract, so every time he would breathe, you could see his ribs.
At 4 months old and weighing just 11 pounds, Jeremiah underwent open heart surgery at Cleveland Clinic Children's Hospital. The chambers and valve inside his tiny heart were separated to function normally and patched in a unique way, using his own tissue.
I use the covering of the heart, which is called the pericardium. I cut it to appropriate dimensions, and these are very important, cut into exact dimensions so we can get the repair. The beauty of this material, obviously, it's pliable, it's soft, it gets attached to the heart and heals very well.
Jeremiah is now thriving. His parents like to say he has the heart of a lion, and this little guy is ready to roar.
It's truly a miracle, with modern medicine, that he was able to have this successful open heart surgery and that we could celebrate his first birthday. It's truly a miracle.
And according to Jeremiah's doctors, his future is bright. His heart repair will be monitored as he grows up. He may need another procedure, but he has no restrictions and can play most non-contact sports, that is, when he grows up.
The race to commercialize self-driving vehicles is on. Meet Neuro, the California startup behind these pint-sized battery-operated vans. Designed for last-mile urban delivery, these vans can be fitted for refrigeration or heating units. Neuro is hoping to bring them to the streets this year, saying they're safer than human-piloted vehicles and will relieve congestion and pollution by taking bigger delivery trucks off crowded city streets.
So it's almost like I don't need to leave home, right?
Yeah, pretty close.
The town of Bridgewater and the Old Colony Planning Council hosted a presentation on the importance of making space for rain. Cody Baker is in now to tell us what the presentation was all about.
Things aren't going to stay the same. And when you're dealing with nature, nothing is going to stay the same.
And as times change, so does the look of many communities in southern New England, where quaint centers and open fields have been gradually replaced with urban sprawl. Stacy Levy stopped by the Academy building on Monday to enlighten those in attendance on the importance of allowing nature to coexist with the ever-expanding construction in our cities and towns. Residential and commercial buildings continue to expand, putting a stress on area watersheds. Communities such as Bridgewater, which reside near rivers and streams, have experienced an uptick in significant urban and river flooding, and Levy warns that the problem could get worse if we continue to impinge on nature.
We have to get back into a sort of sense that we have to share more equitably with nature, with the spaces that when we're given a space to build, we have to give more of it to nature so that the rain has time and place to soak in.
The northeastern part of the country averages around a yard of rainfall each season, and as storms become stronger, rainfall totals increase, all of that rain needs to get back into the ground, and it will, running through anything in its path. Without proper planning, the threat for flooding and other water damage grows. Levy and fellow eco-artists are collaborating with architects, engineers, and project managers to find solutions that are both practical and aesthetically pleasing. Stacy showed off some of her projects that accomplish these goals. Levy considers herself an artist and a scientist. She has designed several projects in Pennsylvania and most recently spoke to a sold-out audience in Boston. An eager crowd in Bridgewater was interested in hearing more. Stacy has 4 ingredients to a recipe for success: give a place for rainwater to infiltrate, celebrate nature visibly, embrace variable conditions, and enhance people's relationships to nature. As land continues to develop, it's important to remember that water also needs a place to flow. Keeping this in mind, we can avoid flooding disasters in the future.
But you have to build for rain and ways of making the rain happy and having a place and having the time it needs to soak in.
You can see Levy's presentation on Channel 22 on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 p.m. and alternating days at 1. This is Cody Baker reporting for Bridgewater This Week.
2018 marks 30 years of BTV in town. Hard to believe that. And in recognition of this milestone, we're opening the BTV Vault and looking at some of the stories making news over the past decades.
That's true, John. In honor of the Olympics, we're taking a look back to 2010 when Alicia and Jason tried their hand at curling.
It starts with basically a geometry that you want to set up to play to your team's strengths and the other team's lack of strength. There are 4 players on each team, and there are 16 rocks. So each player throws 2 rocks opposite the other player, with the idea at the end of each end, or inning if you think of it that way, when all of the rocks have been played, that you want more of your rocks of your color to be closer to the center of the house, which we can see out here, than the opposition. And so for every rock you get closer to the center, you get 1 point.
But scoring a point isn't as easy as it looks.
There's quite a bit of physics to the sport, and I'll just show you here with the curling rock and the pebbler, which we have out here in the ice. This is a pebbling machine or equipment that's filled with hot water, and while you can't see it on the end here, this is a pebbler head with very, very fine holes in it. So as you prepare the ice, you walk backwards down the ice, wanding a pebble on the ice, so that the rock actually doesn't ride on the flat ice. It rides on little pebbles on the ice that have been frozen in. And the physics works like this. This is the bottom of the curling rock, and there's a very small rim around here, and that's what runs over those pebbles. So while a rock is 42 pounds, it takes very little effort to get it down the ice, because it's running, this surface here is running on those little pebbles. And the reason that you see sweepers is because if it looks like the rock doesn't have enough oomph, so to speak, to get there on its own, the sweepers sweep that pebble. They sweep across the pebble with their brush, which at the end of the day warms up the pebble, lowers the coefficient of friction, and causes the rock to go farther and straighter. And it always curls in the direction of rotation. If you rotate it like that, it will ever so gradually curl down the ice in that direction. Typically when people come out to try it, as you have today, people will say, wow, there's a lot more to this sport than I realized.
There truly is. Imagine trying to push a 42-pound rock all while maintaining your balance on the ice.
Well, you got the rock down there. I got it down there.
Not an easy task.
But you didn't actually say that Jay actually got it down.
I mean, we had to tease the story a little bit. You can't give away the ending.
I didn't know that we actually had that type of sounds department in 2010. I feel like we were maybe a little smaller back then. But.
Well, maybe, but it's amazing to see how we've grown over the years, and quite frankly, I'm kind of afraid what you're going to dig out of the archives.
Could make some money off this, Scott.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of.
Anyways, coming up, Bridgewater State's schedule on the court is winding down while the BR girls basketball team keeps the good times rolling.
There, stop crying. I said stop crying. Stop, I said, or I'll give you something to cry about. Look at you, you're filthy
Child abuse comes in many forms.
Stay in there until I get back!
Neglect is common. When parents get help, there's hope for children. Prevent child abuse. If you or someone you know needs help, visit helpandhope.org.
Mommy's really, really sorry.
That's Jenny, but that's not Jenny's dad. If she gets into that car, that may be the last time you'll see Jenny. I'm McGruff, the crime dog. See those kids? Every day in this country, 60 kids disappear. Some run away, but a lot are kidnapped by strangers, or even by people they know. So write to McGruff and teach your kids to protect themselves. Help take a bite out of crime.
The BR girls basketball team went into their OCL matchup against Dartmouth looking for a win to seal up the regular season title. But a win would also be their 11th in a row. Brian Berard has more in this girls basketball recap from the regional.
The Lady Trojans basketball team looked to continue their winning ways, and first up was OCL foe the Dartmouth Lady Indians, and with the win they would sweep OCL play and claim the title outright, and they did just that with a 66-29 victory. Kylie Peachy led all scorers for Bridgewater Rainham with 12 points and 4 steals. Kaylee Matalanis, Victoria Dacey, and Shannon Lynch also had 7 points of their own. And the next matchup was a fierce Division III East Bridgewater Lady Vikings team. Bridgewater Rainham already had one win over the Lady Vikings earlier in the year and were looking for the season sweep, and they did just that with a 47-41 victory over East Bridgewater. Shannon Lynch and Brooke Reagan combined for 16 points and 10 rebounds, and Kaylee Matalanis fouled out late in the game but was able to add in 10 key points, including a clutch three-pointer at the end to seal the victory. Bridgewater Rainham goes on the road to Silver Lake and Bourne to finish out the season. For Bridgewater This Week, I'm Brian Berard.
And BR has a pair of games left in the regular season against Silver Lake and Bourne before the chase for the championship starts in the girls basketball tournament. The boys team are your OCL champs following an 83-67 win over Dartmouth on February 9th. Darius Hippolyte had 28 points, while Tony Fernandez had 20 and 10 boards. That win was followed up by another win, this time on senior night against Westwood, and BR would win that game by 30, 70-40. BR improved to 11-6 on the season with that victory. BR has 2 games left in the season, as well as taking on New Mission and Whitman-Hanson before the MIAA tournament. A few weeks ago, we showed you Bryce Shaw signing on to play at the U.S. Naval Academy, but there are still more players signing their letters of intent. Corey Sullivan signed on to play with the Bentley Falcons, and James Hannafin will attend St. Anselm College in the fall. Congrats to all these players.
11 members from BR's swim and dive team competed with the best at MIT, with several of them achieving personal bests. Hannah and Megan Kramer, Caitlin O'Reilly, and Shannon George posted a BR record-breaking time of 1:57.03 in the 200 medley, placing them 8th. Individually, Hannah Kramer finished 5th in the 100-meter freestyle and 8th in the 100-meter backstroke. Both of those marks record-setting. Freshman Megan Kramer finished 2nd in the individual 200-meter relay, breaking league and school records, and set a record pace in the 100-meter backstroke, finishing 2nd.
Junior Sarah Johnson had a phenomenal day as well, placing 5th overall. The 400 freestyle relay of Dwin McNeil, Shannon George, Hannah Kramer, and Megan Kramer cut 7 seconds off their time and placed 9th.
Bridgewater State's men's basketball team went through the month of January with just one loss, capping off an 8-1 start to 2018. That loss was against Salem State, which set the Bears back in the MASCAC standings. It looks like the teams will finish 1-2 in the regular season race, but the game on February 7th would go a long way in determining who will host the MASCAC title game. Dimitri St. Louis had himself quite the game against Salem State, 11 of 19 shooting, 4 of 8 from the three-point line. Here's one of the three-pointers going from Joseph Carty, passing off for a deep pass to give BSU the early 7-5 lead. Now St. Louis passes off to Carty, sharing the wealth, and Carty would hit his own 3 to even things out at 16. Now the final couple minutes, Carty to Carney to St. Louis. Dimitri St. Louis, the story of the first half. Joe Perobo shared his thoughts at halftime.
Yeah, really having a great game right now, but what, if it wasn't for him, we'd be screwed.
Okay. St. Louis, same story. 3 from downtown to bring Bridgewater State to within 8. However, Salem State shooting lights out all night long. That's Jacob Lindland with a three-pointer. That might have been the backbreaker. If that wasn't, this was. Tyreek McCauley in the paint forces his way for 2 as Salem State gets the victory on rivalry night. But the story of the night still, Dimitri St. Louis. Dimitri St. Louis finished with a game-high 27 points, including 4 3-pointers, and Joseph Carty, per usual, has a double-double with 13 points and 13 boards. Salem State shot 55% from the field compared to the Bears' 38%. The women's team seemed to be on the right track in the second half of the season, winning their last 5 games, including a 46-point non-conference win against Elms College. That was a close matchup. Now going into their matchup against the Lady Vikings, Bridgewater State is competing for a home first-round game, and a win would go a long way. Bridgewater State would have a very slow start to this contest, not hitting a field goal for nearly 6 minutes, a 2-point to see down there off of a pair of free throws. Chanel Melton, though, gets a nice Bridgewater State home bounce to bring the Bears to within 4. However, Bridgewater State would get back into the lead, and they would hold on to it. Some fancy footwork from Sarah De Silva for a deep 2 for 2 of her 14 points on the night. Jen White in the second half passes off to De Silva all day, all night to shoot the 3, giving Bridgewater State the commanding lead. And if that wasn't enough, how about this? Chanel Melton picks up the loose ball going coast to coast, putting Bridgewater State up by 30 points, and the Bears would win by 32, 68-36. Sarah De Silva and Chanel Melton each had a game-high 14 points. Kaylin Aguilar had 13 points and 11 rebounds off the bench. Bridgewater State won this game from the three-point line, shooting 42% compared to Salem State, who only shot 22%, in a game that had a combined 41 turnovers. That was a fun game to watch.
Yeah, sure was.
Now, looking at the standings as of February 13th, the Salem State Vikings will take home the regular season men's title, while BSU will get a first-round bye. Now, on the women's side of the court, Bridgewater State, if the season were to end as of this taping, it would be Bears-Vikings Part 3 taking place in Salem.
Now, Oscar season is a few weeks away, and Mark McCreiner decided to do his own spin on the popular award show.
Not Mark, do his own spin? Come on. Now, let's see how this goes. Mark?
Good evening, friends. We are all interested in the future, for that is where you and I are going to spend the rest of our lives. And remember, my friends, future events such as these will affect you in the future. Wow, wasn't that powerful writing? No? Yeah, most people don't think so. I, however, love both it and the movie it's from, Plan 9 from Outer Space. And yes, I know I have talked about this gosh darn movie more than once, and many of you are probably sick of hearing about it, to which I say, sorry, couldn't resist. Seriously though, isn't it funny what we as audiences find good and bad? No 2 top 10 movie lists for best film are ever the same. And with Oscar time approaching faster than acid reflux after eating an entire crock pot of buffalo mac and cheese, yeah, of course I've done that. Do you have to ask? I figured it was time the Hollywood Lowdown got down with its own Oscar show. So for the next few segments, we, and by we I mean me, are going to have our own little award ceremony for actors, actresses, directors, and films who have seemed to somehow been snubbed by Mr. Oscar. And no, being nominated doesn't count. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the only award ceremony that ends before 11. This is the Oscar night at the Lowdown. Don't I at least get an intro or anything? Something fantastic? Huh? Can we? Nice. That's great. Our first category goes to Best Actor and some of their best performances. And since I have a hard time choosing one, let's just say all of them are winners and all of them benefit from some amazing acting talent and are not Shia LaBeouf or John Leguizamo. And the nominees are... How about a drum roll? Can we get a drum roll going? I ask for so little on this thing. I don't even... The nominees are Robert Forster, a wonderful actor known best for either being a cop, a tough guy, or just being downright awesome. Some of his best work includes a cop named David Madison fighting a mutated alligator in the movie cleverly titled Alligator, a journalist named John Cassellis in Medium Cool, a terrorist in Delta Force, a bail bondsman named Max Cherry in Jackie Brown, and the action hit Vengeance. Chris Sarandon, one of my personal favorite actors, known for an amazing range of performances. Some of his best movies include Jerry Dandridge as a suave vampire in Fright Night, a tough-as-nails cop named Mike Norris in Child's Play, a spoiled, pompous Prince Humperdinck in The Princess Bride, a head demon in The Sentinel, and Al Pacino's transgender wife in Dog Day Afternoon. Tom Atkins, a cult character actor who, in the horror and sci-fi genre, has more power than Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt and all those other pretty boys combined. His greats include such gems as Dr. Dan Chalice in Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, Detective Ray Cameron in Night of the Creeps, a heroic Nick Castle in The Fog, Dan the Abusive Father in Creepshow, and a company schmuck named Michael Hunsaker in Lethal Weapon. That's a fun word, Hunsaker, Hunsaker. What a great word to say. Vincent Price, dubbed by many as the Prince of Horror. His macabre masterpieces include Jared, an artist-turned-killer in House of Wax, a resurrected doctor-turned-madman in both The Abominable Dr. Phibes and Dr. Phibes Rises Again, a lovable and powerful wizard in The Raven, an even more lovable inventor in Edward Scissorhands, his last role, might I add, and of course, also known for lending his voice to a certain little thrilling music video.
The evil of the thriller.
Keith David, another cult great and wonderful character actor, mostly noted for his performances in 2 John Carpenter classics. He was Childs in The Thing, and a director named Armitage in They Live. I'm just going to keep going. He also proved his comedic side as Mary's dad in There's Something About Mary, and provided the voice for that creepy cat in Coraline. He also gave a very memorable performance as Big Tim in Requiem for a Dream. And there you have it, the winners for Best Actor, all of them with some wonderful performances under their belts. I recommend you check out the films mentioned tonight and other movies done by our winners. Tune in next time as our Hollywood Lowdown Oscar event continues, as it will be time to call in the ladies. Until then, this is Mark Macrina saying good night. And for the actual Oscars, just DVR it and watch it the next day. Fast forward the commercials. It only takes an hour and a half. The things you learn. Night.
All right, so Scott, I have to say, I am very impressed with you.
Yeah.
You had the nice wardrobe change to go to the Lowdown, and then you came back here. I'm very impressed.
You know, I was about to say that I think I got snubbed for Best Actor. If not Best Actor, maybe Best Comedy Actor. Come on, Mark. What are we doing here? I thought we were big time. Anyway, to your news and notes now.
Need a moment?
Maybe, yeah. Maybe you should take this.
Okay, I'll take it. Let's go to news and notes now. Plans are being finalized for the Bridgewater Academy Lions Club's 30th Indoor Antiques Craft Fair Flea Market. This popular event will be held on Saturday, March 24th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. in the large gymnasium and lobby of the former BR Regional High School, now known as Mitchell Elementary School. Many of the 56 vendor spaces have already been booked by returning vendors. More information about renting one of the remaining 12 by 8-foot spaces at this event, you can email Lions Flea at bridgewateracademylions.org or call 774-501-3813 as soon as possible. Net proceeds from the $1 admission fee, vendor rentals, and all Academy Lions tables will benefit local scholarships, community programs, and other Bridgewater Academy Lions charities.
This past January marked the 50th anniversary of one of the largest military campaigns during the Vietnam War. The Tet Offensive was a coordinated series of surprise attacks by Viet Cong fighters on a number of targets in South Vietnam. It had a ripple effect, re-energizing the anti-war movement in the United States. A presentation on the Tet Offensive will be given by historian Dr. Gregory Highlander at the Bridgewater Public Library on Tuesday, February 27th at 6:30 p.m.
The AAUW Taunton Area Branch is offering a $500 scholarship in honor of Mary Anderson. Applicants must be graduates of a high school in southeastern Massachusetts. They must have a minimum cumulative GPA of 3.0, apparently I need to work on that, and a commitment to improving the lives of women and girls. To download an application, visit the AAUW's website. The deadline to apply is March 31st. The American Association of University Women is the nation's leading voice promoting equity and education for women and girls.
The Friends of Musicality are looking for volunteers to assist with their upcoming 2018 season. If you're interested in lending your time and talents, visit bridgewatermusicalley.com.
A travelogue with Cindy and Ed Esposito at the Bridgewater Public Library will take place on Tuesday, March 6th at 6:30 p.m. Discovering Scotland will include photographs by the prize-winning photographers and a multimedia slideshow. That's all the time we have for this edition of Bridgewater This Week.
Our next edition will air on March 2nd. We hope you'll stay tuned for our series with the Better Business Bureau after today's program. We'll be talking about ID protection and vacation scams this time. I'm Scott Olson.
I'm John Luck. Thanks for watching.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm here today with Amy Sham, and we're talking about the Better Business Bureau and some of the tips that they can provide for us in protecting us. And one thing I wanted to talk about today was social media, and especially Facebook. And I know a lot of new folks are getting involved with Facebook and Twitter and the various platforms. Of course, with Facebook, when you first sign up initially, you're giving your name, you're giving your birthday, you're giving your mom's maiden name sometimes. This is all information that's right there for anybody to see. And unfortunately, some folks who may not be good intended are getting that information as well. The other active feature of Facebook now seems to be sharing these new quizzes and these new supporting our friends and our causes. And unfortunately, although they look great, and yes, we know that, cancer sucks and we know that we want to help our friends. Unfortunately, again, as we mentioned in the first segment, scammers are taking advantage of your emotions, and they're taking advantage of what you're intending to do. And now that you're sharing all your information and clicking, and everybody's clicking, and now we're adding a nice little database with a ton of internet addresses and email addresses for our scammers to then take advantage of that.
Yeah, that's exactly it. The internet is so interesting because it's such an abundant resource tool, and there's so much information on there. And if I can find a lot of information and I'm not too technologically savvy, then anyone can, including these computer hackers and these computer scammers. They're smart. We use that term loosely, but they're smart scammers. And they're not even trying anything too crazy and outlandish when it comes to trying to get a hold of our information online. They could just be developing a simple little 10-question quiz and try to get it viral, and circulating via something like Facebook, and people are filling it out, and it certainly seems innocent enough. We're not typing in our social security number, we're not typing in our bank or what our bank account number might be, but even something as simple as verifying a mother's maiden name, or a favorite color, or your college mascot, or what your favorite pet is, or your pet's name. Believe it or not, those are all really, really important pieces of information, because more often than not, those pieces of information are our passwords when we have to validate that we are who we are when we contact our bank or our credit card company or any sort of account. And it's tough because we put a lot of information out there. Sometimes our information is out there and we haven't even put it there. It's just been sold through a variety of different means. And then sometimes it's a situation like this where we're innocently on Facebook and we just happen to be taking this fun quiz and tagging 5 of our friends to fill out the same quiz, and it seems innocent enough, but it can be very, very, very dangerous. What we can do to sort of combat that, other than just not answering those sorts of quizzes and not doing them at all, which takes away from the fun, but I'd rather be safe than than not, is to just be very, very aware of where it is that we're putting that information, and very in general, whether it's Facebook or not, but also to contact our banks and contact our credit card companies and ask them, are there any other questions that I can set in place other than something like my mother's maiden name? Can we have a series of letters or symbols or something like that, and numbers that I can give you, some sort of code or anything, a song lyric or something like that from a favorite song, or maybe your least favorite song, something that no one would easily think of or be able to find. It's so important that we're protecting ourselves as best as possible, even in a simple setting like Facebook or something.
And they're also prying on folks who maybe not be very familiar with computers or computer literate, and now they're kind of just testing out Facebook for the first time. Maybe they got a laptop for the holidays, or they don't realize that unfortunately you're basically doing the equivalent of going into South Station, standing up on a chair and saying, hey, my best friend's name is Jim, and then going to your bank website 10 minutes later and telling them the same thing.
Yeah.
You're giving out that pertinent information.
It's true. It's giving it away when you really don't even realize that it's happening, and also being baited in a way that you would never think would happen. I had a gentleman tell me a few years ago when I was delivering a program that he clicked on a pop-up that came up on his screen. It looked like it was from Microsoft, and it was similar to those phishing emails that look official. This pop-up looked like it was from Microsoft. He was a Microsoft user, and it said, we detected a virus. So of course it made him a little anxious and nervous, and he clicked on it, said, we detected a virus, click on this link and we'll scan your computer. He clicked, and seemingly nothing happened to his computer, but within 2 hours he had a phone call from his credit card company asking him if he made a $20,000 purchase over in California, and he clicked on something that looked legitimate, and he got lucky in a sense, because they got a hold of his credit card information, not his debit card information, and they tried to do something outlandish with it. And most scammers don't do that. But there's a danger to these online scams, in particular, clicking on these links or pop-ups or visiting websites that we don't know are legitimate and clicking on these links. We could have all the proper precautions set in place with our antivirus software, our anti-identity theft software, and the minute we click on these links, we're immediately opening up the doors and saying, come on in and take whatever you want, and we don't realize that it's happened until someone's used it. So this particular gentleman got lucky in a weird way, because this scammer, this hacker, got a hold of his information and tried to use it almost immediately. Had it been 3 months later, he might not have been, he might not have also made such a big purchase that would have been noticed not only by his credit card company, but it might bypass us if we're not really thoroughly looking at our statements.
In copying profiles, that brings up another good point. A lot of scammers will try to copy Facebook profiles and then send friend requests to all of their friends that they already have. So if you've already been friended by your friend and you're getting a new request, chances are there's something there. You just mentioned another topic, credit cards versus debit cards, and that can get very important when you're doing online commerce.
So important. We recommend using a credit card for most all transactions, certainly any online transaction. I would never make an online purchase or do anything online with my debit card. I will always use my credit card. I haven't used my debit card personally in about 6 years, since I started with the Better Business Bureau, but especially online, always a credit card. You just don't know, what site you're plugging that information onto, how easy it is for big conglomerates to get hacked, let alone the smaller shops. And it's definitely worth it to utilize the credit card and have to deal with the bill at the end of the month than utilize the debit card. We usually like the debit card better because it's easier. We know what funds we have, we know what we can purchase, and we don't have to think about writing out that separate check at the end of the month, writing out that check, or however it is that you pay your credit card bill. It's worth it, because I would much rather have someone get a hold of my credit card bill, my credit card number, than my debit information. If they get a hold of my debit, they could extract every penny that I have. All my funds could be gone. And if it's the credit card, I might notice it on my statement, $1,000 purchase or $50, whatever it is, and I can contact my credit card company and say that wasn't me. It might take a few months to sort of get it taken off, but at least I'm not without the money. And that's what's really tough about it.
If you are using a debit card, another tip is to keep that card attached to an account with just a smaller amount of money in it.
Absolutely.
And not necessarily have your accounts crossing over. So if they do, unfortunately, get a hold of your debit card, they may only be able to take that small amount versus...
Exactly. It's just one of those tips and tricks for utilizing our cards and best protecting ourselves when it comes to making purchases and things like that. Set a limit. There are people who actually set it up so that they receive a text message every time they swipe their card, so they know if they're at home on a Tuesday watching This Is Us and their phone is dinging, that it's not them and someone must have gotten a hold of their card and they're trying to use it. And it's one of those things, it's just an extra precaution that we can set in place, and every bank and every credit card company might offer something different. And it might just take a few moments out of our day or a week to contact them and say, what can I do to best protect myself? What do you have that I can utilize? And it might be text messages, or it might be setting a limit to $100 a day max. And if you know you're going to go purchase a laptop tomorrow, call them and let them know, and they'll open it up for you and then close it back up again.
I always find it funny if folks are in line at the bank or perhaps at a store and they're asked to verify their information. They always speak very quietly, make sure there's not too many people around them, but yet they'll go online and kind of just let everybody in the world here. So yeah, you really have to be careful online. Consider yourself in a public forum, and if it's information that you wouldn't be comfortable giving out at a party, you probably don't want to just give it out online.
Exactly. And make sure that you're on a secure site. Online banking and things of that nature, anything online where you're going to be purchasing something or on your own bank account, it should be done in your home on a secure computer system. I wouldn't do it on my phone, and I certainly wouldn't do it at the local coffee shop or library.
Right.
It's not that those places aren't safe in general, but you don't know. There are individuals that are called lurkers, and they could be sitting at a table near you, and even though you have a private Wi-Fi, you were given a password by the coffee shop owner, everyone in that coffee shop's using the same Wi-Fi, the same connection. They all have the same password to get onto it. And it doesn't matter how nice someone looks, you just never know who could be hacking in and getting a hold of your information while you're utilizing the same system.
Sure. Yeah, it may not be the person you think you're talking to either.
Exactly.
It's always a good thing. All right, well, this is good information. We have another segment coming up here next week, but before we go, if people are just tuning in, how can they get a hold of the Better Business Bureau?
Sure. So 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you can visit our website, bbb.org. We have an email address, info@boston.bbb.org, or you can call us. I recommend Monday through Friday between the hours of 9 to 3 at 508-652-4800.
Awesome. All right, Amy, thanks so much.